Doctors of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing a patient wouldn't admit? I admitted a guy for chest pain. As part of the workup, I did a urine drug screen which came back positive for cocaine. After the rest of his cardiac workup was negative, I said to him, "Good news, you didn't have a heart attack. It's likely that your chest pain was caused by cocaine." His answer, "I didn't use cocaine. See, I was at a party and people had some lines of cocaine out on a table. As I was walking by, an oscillating fan blew the cocaine into my face, which is why my urine was positive." Got it. Being pregnant and also a virgin. People actually believe women can get inseminated in a public pool or after their parents had sex in the jacuzzi and the girl uses the jacuzzi and is inseminated by the father. Not a doctor but a nurse. Had a patient come in with a toothpick in his penis. Refused to tell me how it got in there, insisting he was picking his teeth and it fell in. Nurse here, had a patient accuse me of shitting in her bed, and threatened to sue me for malpractice. Keynote, she never got out of her bed. Nurse here. Had parents bring their 3-year-old son to the emergency department for 1 month of abdominal pain that kept getting worse. I ask all the routine questions for this complaint, lots of questions about his poop. Is it bloody? Diarrhea? Mucus? When was his last bowel movement? Any changes in the stool? They deny any other concerning symptoms but have abdominal pain. We do blood work, ultrasound, X-ray. Everything comes back completely normal but the kid is intermittently screaming in pain, curled in a ball. Over the next 5 hours I continue to repeat the same questions. I asked repeatedly if there was anything else going on that they could think of. Nope. The kid just doesn't seem well but we have no reason to keep him. We decide to watch him a little longer, let him eat. The kid eats a bunch, a PBJ, apple juice, crackers, popsicle, no pain so we decide to send him home. I bring in the discharge paperwork and I'm about to start going over instructions and the dad goes for the past 3 months he's had a lot of worms in his poop. Worms. Fucking worms. You spent 6+ hours denying worms. I literally just turned around and walked out of the room without saying a word. I was laughing almost to the point of tears. Could not wait to tell my resident. Deworming medications, a shitload of wasted time, and they were on their way. I'm a pediatric dentist, so maybe not the type of doctor you were looking for, but this one throws me for a loop every time so I'll share it. When I sedate kids they have to be NPO for 8 hours before, so I always ask if they had anything to eat or drink in the morning. Parents never want to admit their kid ate or drank, even when I remind them it's very important because if they vomit and aspirate they could die. Often they try to minimize it and say it was just a few bites. But one kid walked in eating a bag of Cheetos at reception and then the parent insisted to me that they hadn't eaten. Yeah, I'm 100% not sedating your child today. One of my lecturers told us a story of when he worked in ed there was a man who refused to acknowledge or tell them how a jar got stuck in his rectum. They were taking him to the OR as it has created a vacuum seal and couldn't be removed without shattering but realized his BSL, blood sugar level, was off the charts. Really, really high. They were considering postponing the surgery to work out WTF was going on. When he ended up talking he told them the jar was full of honey before it got lodged, and was rapidly absorbed by the rectum, causing the insane levels. What? When was their last meal? They think they can fool their PET scan, end up losing money, time and over-irradiated. They were almost 60 years old and taking a drug to make them lactate so their husband could pump them as it would help their fibromyalgia. Took a while for them to admit why they were taking it. This one is sad, from my old roommate. Girl had a very large lump on her breast that she didn't tell the doctors about. She actually went to the hospital for migraines, saying they were getting increasingly bad. When they found the lump, they asked why she didn't say she had that. She said she knew it was going to kill her eventually, but she just wanted to get rid of the migraines because they're giving her a lot of pain in her last months. Once had a woman come in for a possible yeast infection. On exam she had a glass bottle stuck in her vagina filled with urine. Totally wouldn't admit it was hers or explain how it got there even after we removed it. Just kept saying I think this is all a joke and you put it up there. I volunteer at an prisoner shoved a ballpoint pen up his urethra to get out of being stabbed. Insisted he had no idea how it got there. We spent hours deliberating how to get it out, and he just reaches down, still in his handcuffs, and pulls it out himself. Edit. You can't get stabbed if you're not in the prison, and any sort of self-harm will land you on suicide watch, which is brutal as well. Weird sex stuff though, no problem. I guess it's not super weird that this patient wouldn't admit this, but it's weird in the sense that it was super obvious what happened, so he might as well just admit it. I used to do patient registration in the ER. Two of us were wheeling around our computers and registering patients off of ambulances and getting patient information in rooms. A middle-aged guy comes in on an ambulance and my coworker takes it. So I'm finishing up some paperwork and I go to our front office and pull up the patient tracker board so I can see what still needs to be done, and a new patient pops up on the board. Chief complaint: eyeliner pen stuck in penis. My coworker walks into the office looking scarred. She explained the nurse asked him what happened and he said he slipped. She told him that doesn't seem likely. So he said he had an itch and thought it would help. We later found out from the nurse that he finally admitted that he saw it on TV and thought it would feel good. His 20-something-year-old daughter was with him, but she clearly had some form of developmental disability. It was all around a sad situation, and I hope someone told him about sounding and he did some research on safe practices for kinks, fetishes. Apparently they were both lodged in there pretty badly. Edited for clarity, sorry lol. That they don't know how to read. I've been taught the trick of handing a paper upside down to them to see if they can read. It's good to know if they don't, so you can make extra sure they have a full understanding of their instructions instead of saying to read the details on the sheet. Other than all the random things that end up in rectums accidentally. Drunk electrician with the longest drill bit I've ever seen sticking through both legs and impaling his scrotum in between like a really gross kebab. He was so drunk he thought he broke his hip, denied owning any drill bits or for that matter having been drinking. Most common are the numerous drug dox screens we do that come back positive for something and everyone is shocked, borderline offended it got into their system. Had a patient in hospital, I forget what for. The point is that he disappeared for a few hours. When he came back he was tachycardic to 160 bpm, massive pupils, couldn't sit still. We asked him what he'd taken while he was out. Nothing, he swears. He went to the pub and just drank lemonade. Okay, we say, we're gonna take some blood and find out what you've taken. He then pipes up that the friends he was with would think it was funny to spike his drink. What, we asked, did he think they might have spiked his drink with? Speed, he says. What do you know? Bloods confirmed that he had taken speed. But he insists. He didn't take it, his drink was spiked. I'm a nurse. I had a kid once who I needed to get a urine sample from. He was 8. I gave him a cup and pointed him to the bathroom. I went to check on my other patients and came back, kid was still in the bathroom. I go knock on the door, hey buddy, you okay in there? Sync on full blast. Yep. Everything's fine. I go back to his room a few minutes later and he hands me a bag full of water with a cup inside that also appears to be water. I pour the water out of the bag. Hey buddy, are you sure this is urine in this cup? Yay. My pee is always clear. PT is wheeled off his ray. I check the temperature of the so-called urine in the cup. It was ironically the same temperature as the water from the faucet. Come on little homie, you gotta do better than that. This one happened just the other day. Had a patient come in looking pretty sick. Labs and vitals said the guy was in sepsis and most likely had a bad infection. The question was where ... After some prodding and letting him know the seriousness of his situation, he finally admitted to the source of his infection. He didn't want to say it, so he just pointed between his legs. Looking underneath his underwear revealed a smelly, red, swollen, pus-draining scrotum. Some of it was even black and necrotic. Not a pleasant sight, and it looked horribly painful. He went on to explain that he had a painful lump on one of his testicles a few weeks back. He was told it was an infection and given antibiotics. The problem didn't go away, and by then he had decided to take matters into his own hands. Literally. He tied a string tied around one testicle and proceeded to cut it out himself. Needless to say, it became horribly infected and was going to require surgical intervention. Guy ended up doing okay. That she could actually see. We had this lady that came into the ER at least once per month, usually cheek pain. She was 30s, morbidly obese. She had seen multiple specialists. Had her heart/lungs/GI system examined in almost every conceivable way. One night she comes in though with sudden onset blindness. Not her first time with this complaint either. Last time she got a trip to the retina specialist. When I examine her, I walk around her bed and she tells her friend to get her feet off the chair so I can get by. She plays it off super cool by adding, if you have your feet up like you always do. Then the neuro exam. I have her touch her nose then touch my finger. Her idea of how a blind person would perform this exam is to touch her nose then wobble her hand from side to side as she touched the end of my finger. Not to mention the near constant eye contact as we talked. I would ask a question and start moving while she talked and she would follow my eye perfectly. She was extremely relieved to find out she had conversion disorder and that her sight would be back soon. Edit. Maybe it was factitis disorder. I tend to believe all her chest pains and crazy complaints were real feelings she was having due to a number of her social, psych issues. In the at midnight it's a lot easier to tell her it is a symptom of dealing with whatever social drama was happening in her life and that her eyes worked fine instead of telling her she was lying to me for some gain. Either way she was sick and needed reassurance. She was genuinely relieved though. On the finger-to-nose test she touched my finger on the first try but instead of a straight line she moved her hand back and forth about the 3 inches the whole way there but directly there. My finger was probably 2 feet in front of her face. Had an elderly lady from a nursing home come in super altered. She would wake up briefly to answer questions but then would be out like a light seconds later. Usually in this case we assume it's from infection, stroke, etc. but we still ask about drug use, legal and illicit, since it can cause that kind of thing. Lady denied several times she didn't take anything other than prescribed meds. Finally, as we're about to intubate her, put her on a ventilator, since she was getting worse, we cut off her bra and out pops a little baggie with some white powder and a baby straw. We gave her some Narcan and she gasps herself awake. Even after that still took her a long time before she said well maybe I did take some drugs from a friend. Since then I've trusted no one when it comes to denying drug use. Edit. Just to clarify, I'm not saying I think everyone is a drug addict, I'm just saying if you come in acting super out of it, you're probably going to get Narcan just to cover all the bases. Also, I'm aware that light seconds are not a measure of time. I used the phrase out like a light followed by the word seconds. Just confusingly worded I guess. Had a patient refused to admit he swallowed a pen, even though an x-ray showed the pen in his small bowel and we took the pen out during an emergency surgery. It's well known in the that a patient with something stuck up his / etc. but has no idea how it got there. Or they fell on it. The weirdest thing I saw was a patient who came into the with a shampoo bottle up his butt. So, what brings you into the emergency room tonight? I shoved the shampoo bottle up my butt, now it's stuck there. No shame. I'm a court tech and I was to scan a woman's abdomen for belly pain. She and her girlfriend were there. I have to have a pregnancy test. I have to have one done. I can't radiate a fetus. I even asked none so no exceptions. She denies up and down she's pregnant, and then, after the test I did, it said she was. She denied it and demanded a blood test, since she was a lesbian and never had sex with men. Well the blood test came back positive also, surprise, and the argument that ensued was biblical. She was arguing with her girlfriend and the nurses and the doctor. I never ended up scanning her, and they chalked up her pain to her being pregnant. The look on her girlfriend's face when I said it came back positive was one I will never forget. Edit. Because I've gotten this comment a lot, the woman in the room with the patient was her and they had been together a long time, and the patient had given her permission, in writing, to allow her to hear her medical information. Many of you are saying you shouldn't have told her in front of her and you're partially right in a way, but, the patient had given her that permission, and I did not question it. Had she not, I would have asked her to leave the room. You can give anyone you deem necessary access, or no access, to your medical information. It's not limited to spouses. There was a woman sent in by her family doctor for urinating some blood. We put a camera into her bladder with her awake, looking to exclude a tumor. We found her bladder full of citrus seeds, pits. So many of them. When asked why she put them there she said well I eat a lot of fruit and wouldn't accept any responsibility for them being there. I might be too late for the party. Also English is not my first language and I'm on mobile. I'm an internal medicine resident. Had a patient with sepsis that was being seen by the urology department. When I first read his clinical history it stated something along the lines of, infected wound in the penis, patient claims he doesn't know how he got it. So I begin my assessment and ask him about his wound. Indeed, he claimed he didn't know how it happened. I decided that the priority was to stabilize the patient and I made some adjustments to antibiotics and other meds. Well the guy went downhill, the sepsis became severe even though he was with the strongest antibiotics we had and 2 different vasopressors. His blood pressure was through the floor and eventually he needed intubation and went to the ICU. He managed to survive after a complete penectomy. And about 2 weeks later I saw him again. Turns out the dude was trying to get his dog to lick his penis, and put on some peanut butter on it. Naturally the dog bit him. He didn't seek medical help for about 10 days before the pain and fever was too much. If we knew from the beginning that the wound was inflicted that way, the antibiotic would have been different, probably would have made a difference. I still feel sorry for that guy, but with a wound like that he is lucky to be alive. Edit. I should have said that a total penectomy is total removal of the penis. Sorry for all of you that went to Google Images. Trauma surgery rotation. Surgeons are helicoptered out to the scene where a man is impaled on a tree. They are hoisted up to cut him down in conjunction with firemen. The man, the branch lodged deep in his ass, and the surgeons return on helicopter. In the ed, straight to court for pan scan. It's in there ... as in through his glove max, med, minutes, pelvic ala, and the tip of this branch is lodged somewhere alarmingly close to the bifurcation of the iliac, external and internal. He's hemodynamically stable and talking. Saying Mias, I need meds. Her doc is like, no shit. Asks him what were you doing in the tree? His answer, I used to trim trees. Okay, but were you doing that today? No, but I used to trim trees. Utox is positive for meth, but it's time to get that baby out, so it's stat or for IND and ... ish. I get to scrub in and see what it's all about in the OR. The branch is indeed lodged between the iliac artery and vein, at the bifurcation. Neither vessel is damaged. We proceed to remove wood chips and bone chips from the enormous hole we have excavated out of his ass, and no suturing practice for me because it's a wound vac for this man who used to trim trees. In the following days he is in and out of a med-induced haze. We ask him over and over, yo, but what were you doing in the trees? His reply, I used to trim trees. He came clean about the meth use and other drug use. He started to look better and better as he basically detoxed before our eyes. He eventually left in as good health as one can be with a giant mass of granulation tissue where your ass used to be. Never told us why the fuck he was in that tree. All the symptoms of pregnancy plus 2 positive pregnancy tests. There's 0% chance I can be pregnant. I'm not married. To be fair, the patient's mother was there, and this was in a very conservative country. She ended up admitting she was pregnant when we separated her from the mom. I'm a nurse, not a doctor, but it's amazing how many patients lie about how much they drink. Dude, we aren't judging you. We just want to know if we need to worry about you detoxing when you come out of open heart, or any other surgery. ETA, a lot of comments in here seem to be about your personal doctor visits. My comment was very specifically referring to major surgery. All I am saying is this: if you're going to land in the hospital for a significant amount of time and you're an alcoholic, it is to your benefit and safety to be honest about that, because the odds that you will withdraw on your time there is high. If providers know, they can plan to manage that so you don't withdraw. Last, sounds like a lot of you have run into shitty, judgy people in healthcare. We aren't all like that. And even the judgy ones really don't want you to detox on their shift. You weren't breathing. We gave you Narcan. You started breathing again, woke up, and then deny you used a narcotic. Yeah, alright. I can literally smell the smoke on your clothes and breath, see the nicotine stains on your fingers, and you're trying to tell me you quit smoking 10 years ago?